Hey guys, it's Sunday night, and it's another episode of the Uncluster. And after a short hiatus, we're back. And tonight I've got Brandon with me
Hi guys.
and Mina.
Hello.
And this week we are talking about American Gangster, which is a Denzel Washington film from 2007. And that's Brandon's pick, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into that.
All right. Well, to start off, I'll say this. I didn't go into this movie expecting anything. I ended up watching it, I think, on HBO a couple of years ago, and it surprised the shit out of me. I got so drawn into the movie with these great actors. Denzel Washington, who plays Frank Lucas, he ends up becoming a really big drug lord. Russell Crowe, who plays Richie Roberts, he's the cop that's actually trying to stop this whole drug cartel thing. Just the way they portrayed their characters. I don't think that I've seen. I think this is probably one of Denzel Washington's better roles that I have seen him in. And I've seen a good number of his movies. He's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but I think he just did such a superb job with this role. The movie starts out where Frank Lucas, Denzel Washington's character, he is basically an assistant to the old crime lord. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Do you remember, Slider?
No, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so he ends up dying of a heart attack, and the whole thing that was being instilled into Denzel Washington from the start was, taking out the middleman and going right to the source. So what Denzel Washington ends up doing is he goes to the source of cocaine over in Vietnam, and he ends up using troops there to import them into the U.S. and is selling them even to the mafia, and he ends up controlling all of it. And the story is about that and how Russell Crowe is also trying to deal with his situation because Russell Crowe wants to become a lawyer. He's going to night school, but he's also a cop. He has issues with his ex-wife and wanting to be in his son's life, even though he's not very good at it at first. Actually, really bad at it at first. A lot of characters in this come together pretty well. Although I guess I'll say his name now. I might say it wrong. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah.
I like him as an actor. I liked him in Serenity. I think he did pretty well playing the brother of Denzel Washington. There's just so many really good actors in this movie that this is definitely one of my favorite movies, and it became it quick. I think after I saw it that initial time on HBO, I went and got it, watched it again that same day, and then ended up probably watching it at least a dozen times since in the last couple of years.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and hop in here. First, I believe we decided it was Chiwetel Ejiofor is the way you pronounce the name.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah, that. his name is. Wasn't it heroin, not cocaine?
Well, yeah, I guess. Well,
yeah, I'm actually not sure either. Like for some reason I thought it was heroin, but I actually didn't hate this movie. But Jesus Christ, this movie's fucking long.
With heroin, don't you just take the same stuff for coke and you just melt it down?
I don't know. I'm not a drug dealer. Sorry.
I mean, I think that's what they were doing. I mean, anyway, regardless of what. Okay, I mean it's.
So anyway,
same concept. Anyway,
this movie is just freaking long. It's not that there's any bad performances. It's interesting that it's a true story. I'll give you that. And the characters are all interesting, and the acting's all well done. But it's a very slow-paced film, and you're just waiting for something to happen the entire time. And it just, I don't know. I watched it multiple times because I just kind of lose track of what I was. I'd stop paying attention to it, right? And sat down to watch it the first time, and I tried to remember. It's like, why haven't I seen this film since I saw it in the theaters? And the reason was it's so goddamn long.
I don't know. I didn't feel any of this. I guess waiting like you did. Especially when watching Denzel Washington.
I have to imagine the first time that I saw the film, I didn't feel this way. But knowing what happens and knowing that it's not it's a very story driven film. And it's not really about the actions going on, but the people that are taking them. And you're basically waiting to see their decisions, their reactions, and it seemed to me like it was a very, very slow pace. Still a good movie, but it takes some definite patience to watch.
I like the little nuances that he had with 10%, my man, with a little giving him $1.
No, it was 20%, and yeah, I
or 20%.
But Amina, what do you think about the movie?
Well, I went into this a little prejudiced because this is not my genre of movie. I usually stick to horror, sci-fi, fantasy, not drama. So I watched it for the first time the other day, and I had to watch it in two parts because it's so fucking long. And the opening scene where he's setting someone on fire, I'm like, well, okay, this is kind of drawing me in a little bit. I'm like, this is brutal, but it was just so slow, and I can't watch anything with Denzel Washington in it and not just think, oh, that's Denzel Washington. Like, I can't get around him. I can't look at any characters he's trying to do usually. I just see Denzel Washington. That being said, he was really, really good in this movie though, and when I cut it in half and I went to watch the second part, I was actually really interested to find out what happened. And I don't usually get that in a lot of movies. Usually I just don't care. Whenever I watch it, it's fine. But I actually wanted to see how this ended after the first 5 hours of it. I think Russel Crowe did a great job. I like him in just about everything, and he plays the slightly pudgy, terrible father guy really well. Eventually, I did get over Denzel Washington, and he did a great job with his character too. I would recommend it for anybody who likes, dramas and things like that. It was really good for that. I thought the ending was kind of a letdown, and I understand that it's based on a true story, so you really couldn't spice it up much. But I felt like watching this whole thing and all this stuff was leading up to something, and then it just kind of let down. It's like I wanted a big, spectacular Hollywood ending, and I got nothing.
Well, some of the stuff that I found interesting in the movie was at the very beginning. I believe the character we were trying to remember before is Bumpy.
Oh yes, Bumpy.
And, the commentary he's making on just America at the time. He's talking about how corporations are taking over, that there's no personal service in business. And he even walks into a store and goes you see, there's nobody here to serve us. And it's really interesting that he's applying that mentality and that logic to the crime industry.
Yes.
And it was kind of a funny thing that in the entire film, whenever they tried to go after him, one of the running themes was, I'm not going to say it the way they said in the film, but no black person in the mob business can accomplish what the American mafia hasn't accomplished in 40 years or whatever it was. It's like
I think he said 100 years.
Yeah, they couldn't believe that that an African American could actually accomplish these things and think on that level. And it reminds me of something I read years ago. I wish I could find the study where in New York City they took young African Americans that were in the drug business that were successful. They took the high echelon street dealers, and they re-educated them and found that all of the principles that they applied towards their drug dealing would work if they applied them towards business, and they actually reformed these people and allow them to create businesses and do stuff like that. So it's just an interesting commentary that the application of business is not exclusive to legitimate business.
That's very true. And they showed that really well in this movie.
Right.
Even down to copyright. When he goes to oh God, what's his name? The guy who owned the club.
Oh,
and
Cuba Gooding Jr.
He goes in. Oh, I can't the character name. I can't remember his. Anyway,
Yeah.
he goes in there and he's telling him, he's like, I don't, we need to talk. You can't be, cutting this down and still selling it as, blue magic. He's like, I don't give a shit what you call it. Call it red magic for all I care, but don't let me catch you doing this again.
Right. It's the character's name was Nicky Barnes. He's actually treating it like a real business and not like it's some sort of illicit activity, and it works out for him. But what I thought was interesting is the commentary that Bumpy makes in the beginning about the corporations. He says they're cutting out the middleman, going straight to the distributor. He didn't like that, and yet that's exactly what Denzel Washington did by going straight to the producers in Vietnam. So that was one thing I thought was a little inconsistent in the story, because
maybe inconsistent unless he's trying to place himself as the middleman.
Well, he is the one that's going directly to the distributor, though, and he's selling it. He's actually selling his own product, and he's selling it to other distributors. So I just thought that was a little inconsistent, especially with the way they try to focus on how much Bumpy's death affected him. And how much he was trying to honor his mentor's legacy and whatnot. So I don't know. I just thought that was a little strange, but it was an interesting thing that he took other people into consideration. Like the one character that you mentioned earlier, that he was like trying to get 20% of everybody's sales.
Oh yeah.
He's like 20% is my profit. So I give you 20%, I got nothing left for me. And he thought about that for other people in his business. He didn't just think about himself. And it's one of the things that made him an interesting character. And he was kind of like they portrayed Bumpy and then him as a very Godfather-ish like figure. The populace of the town actually looked up to him because he took care of them, even though he was doing something that was destroying them.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked a lot about the Denzel Washington character, is that they tried to portray it as like everything he did was honorable and for a good reason. And he even said it at some point when at the end, it's like, this stuff is going to happen anyway. It might as well be me doing it. And I like the parts of the movies where it kind of focused on him taking care of his family and spending all this money, moving his mom into a big house and his girlfriend and his wife, and how at the end his mom comes up to him and just slaps him really hard, and he's like, if you don't straighten up, we're all going to leave you. And it's like, at some point you realize that dude, though he had honorable intentions, is getting way in over his head.
Yeah, and he even gets told by the distributor in Vietnam, he's like, it's not in my best interest to say this, but quitting while you're ahead is not the same thing as quitting.
Exactly.
He told me, he's like, you are in a great position, get out. And he didn't listen. Although I think it might have been, it was interesting because when communications broke down in Vietnam and we started pulling our troops out and he was going to lose his supply line, I had to wonder, because they never actually define what his motivation was for this. But he's trying to get a really big shipment out. And I have to wonder, is that his move to try to just put a final level on it?
I don't think it was. I think he was trying to hold off until he could figure out a way to actually get more. I think that was like, let me get a really big shipment so that I can pace it out for a little bit, right, until I can find another way to get more in.
Okay. And what was surprising about that is that's the thing that took him down. Trying that last stretch that let me just do a little bit more. Had he stopped before then, they never would have caught him. And which is kind of strange because everyone knew it was him.
Yeah, I mean, you shoot people like in the middle of the street in broad daylight.
Oh, that was such a good scene.
Yeah, and then he goes back to it's like, all right, let's finish lunch. Yeah.
Well, what was funny is he didn't really tell his brothers what he did at that point.
His brothers saw him do it.
No. But right before then, they went to eat lunch or whatever it was, and they're eating. He still hasn't really told them what he does.
Right, and then he
and
walks
he
up
just
and shoots
walks
a guy
up,
in the face.
yeah, shoots a guy in the face, and his brothers took it pretty well.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's the business we're getting into.
Yeah, like they took it a lot better than most people, I think. I mean, that's probably the only questionable thing I think that there is.
And it's kind of it's I want to say it's fun, even though it's not really fun. It's kind of tragic, but I enjoyed watching the people that he surrounded himself with sort of implode under their own success. You know, the one driver that started doing drugs and flashing money around, and he grabs his brother. He's like, "What the hell are you wearing?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "These are good clothes." He's like, "That's a clown suit." He's like, "That's how you get caught." And it was just an interesting.
He's kind of right though.
He's not kind of right. He's right. Period.
Like,
had they done things differently, had they remained below the radar, had they done things smartly, like the scene where they're driving around and they get pulled over by the cops and he's got the stuff in the trunk.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff wouldn't have happened had they all followed his direction. Now, I think that also is a scene that kind of gives us a little more of a glimpse into Denzel Washington's character. Is he's a little fucking psychopathic.
yeah.
He's very calm and collected when the cops are shaking him down. He gets back in the car and he damn near puts his brother's head through the window.
Well, he's just very controlling, and you kind of have to be in his position, or else people are going to die. So you see somebody fucking up like that, and I'd probably do it too.
Yeah,
I can definitely understand the anger when it's like the stuff's in the trunk, and after he gets back in the car, yeah, I would want to punch the shit out of him too.
Yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to do that either. I'm just saying it's a very fine line between very calm and collected and I mean, and he does that more than once throughout the film. And I think
with his cousin in the piano when his cousin shot the cop.
Yeah.
I think it is just it's trying to show you that the increasing pressure of his success, the increasing pressure of all the balls that he has up in the air is actually starting to grate onto him. I thought it was kind of the story between him and his wife. There was something off about it for me. I never really felt like theirs was a true love story. It seemed
you didn't
like
get to see much of it either.
Yeah, it seemed like more she was kind of like a trophy wife.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the feelings between the two of them were on the same level, because when they tried to kill her, he freaks out. He goes to the guy. He's like, "Hey, you said I would have peace of mind. I don't feel very peaceful right now." And he's very upset about them trying to kill his wife. But in my perspective, I'm trying to figure out, is he upset because his wife was in danger, or was he upset because, hey, that's my toy. You don't fuck with my toys.
Well, you kind of get that impression later on too when she wants to leave, and he's like, "No, you're not going anywhere. Nobody is."
Right.
She's just another thing for him to control, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I think it's a fine line that they walk. And again, the fact that I have these questions, in my opinion, says that they did a really good job in portraying these characters. Because there is that gray area. There's, we all know it when we're getting into like a new relationship and you're interested in someone, and there's that, oh my God, are they thinking this? Are they thinking that? What did they think of what I said? There's that gray area of just trying to perceive what someone else is thinking and feeling. And I sort of had that with him, not on that relationship level, but just it's like, I don't understand what his motivation is. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, you and Denzel.
Yeah, whoo, man. But the idea of being so real that I was unable to quantify what his character's motivations were, what his thought process was, and when he was going to flip that switch and freak out, I think says a lot about the performances.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, or what I was saying earlier about, for me at least, this is one of his better performances that he's done.
I don't disagree, but I don't think it was one of his most engaging performances. I really liked him. I liked the reality of his character. I liked the portrayal of what he was going through. But if I knew him in real life, if I knew this person, I wouldn't be that interested in this person. Which again, that just kind of makes him very real to me. If we're going to talk about some engaging performances, I would say his most engaging performance, in my opinion, is in Man on Fire. I think that's just a great Denzel Washington movie. I think
it's such a seizure-inducing movie.
Well,
with like the weird colors and the shaky camera. It's like, oh fuck, stop.
Well, that's because of the cinematography. That's I can't remember who made the film right now, but
I don't think I've seen that one.
You haven't seen Man on Fire, dude? How did you get on this show?
I've seen a lot of his other movies. Like seriously, I've seen a bunch of Denzel Washington movies, but like I don't know why that's not one of them. Or if I've seen it, then I just can't place it in my head. Which that happens all the time too.
It's got a little blonde screamy girl from War of the Worlds in it.
Dakota Fanning.
Yes.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't see that. That had to be semi-recent then.
No.
In the past 10 years?
Yeah, probably in the
maybe
past 10 years. But
10 years, yeah. But
that's a sad movie.
I would consider the past 10 years semi-recent. Like, it's not from the 90s.
It's definitely not from the 90s, but it's damn close. But anyway, it's a very sad movie, and it's probably the single most cared about character for me in terms of watching Denzel Washington in his performances. But so overall, the movie, very well put together, very real, very just it's something you can really associate with on several levels, even if you're not from the streets, you're not a drug dealer, you don't know drug dealers, but just the perspective that they put on the overarching situation. And what's interesting is I haven't even talked about
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yes, thank you.
That's true.
Poor Russell Crowe.
His character is going through life situations as well. Not just the fact that he's wanting to be a lawyer, so he's going to night school and working this tough job, but he's kind of a fucked up individual. He cheats, he drinks, he's friends with criminals.
But he's the only non-corruptible policeman on the force.
Right, and it's because he comes, I assume, because he comes from that background. He grew up with that, and if it didn't corrupt him then, there's no reason it would corrupt him now. And some of the things that they do, I don't know if this is part of the true story or not, but when they find almost $1 million in that trunk, the conversation they have is like, if we turn this in, we're telling other corrupt cops we can't be trusted. Mm-hmm. He makes a decision. He's like, well, we can't be trusted because I'm not a corrupt cop.
I like the one scene where they're in the divorce court and his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, turns to him and she's like, you think you're better than everyone else because you don't lie and you're not corrupt, but you're not. You're just as bad as the rest of us. Yeah, that was an interesting scene, especially when he gives in. The lawyer starts saying, he says, we're saying that, we ask him to protect us, but then we say that his environment is not safe for a child, and he just stops them and says, it's not. He's like, you're right, and the kid shouldn't be with me. You know? And I think that was kind of him portraying exactly what she said. He was like, yeah, I suck. And
at the same time, though, maybe he just realized at that point that I need to get my shit straight first. Which he does at some point because he becomes a lawyer. He actually does become a lawyer, and his first person that he defends is Frank Lucas.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to bring up. Yep.
Which
the end.
I thought that was kind of scummy.
Dude, I thought that was awesome. Because they had they had a really big respect for each other.
Which is great, but he spent all that time trying to put this person behind bars, and then turns around and turns his back on that to defend him.
Well, no, he got him a lesser jail sentence because he snitched on a bunch of other people, and that was great, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily to just put the top guy in jail. It was to pretty much close that whole thing down.
But he became a defense lawyer.
Yeah.
His job went from putting criminals away to keeping them out of jail.
Well, that might be part of his whole catharsis on turning his life around too. Was to try to do good for people and not like do like the negative part of it.
Did you see what he was wearing when he went to meet Denzel Washington when he got out of jail? I mean, he looked like a scumbag '80s lawyer. You know?
Russell Crowe always looks like that.
he had the jacket with a t-shirt underneath with a chain on.
I did enjoy at the end when the whatever young kid it was walked up to Denzel Washington and was talking crap, and I think that if Denzel Washington if he had a gun on him, he would have just shot him in the face just like always.
I don't know about that, but yeah,
like he had the same posture. He's like, really.
Yeah,
but I like how he was still like alpha dog, even though he just got out of prison. Those little kids still had respect for him. Didn't even know him.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thing that I was mentioning earlier about his personality, about his mentality, where I think you're right. I think if had situations been different, he'd have turned around and killed that little kid. I
think that little kid could sense that too.
Right. So that person, that character, wasn't quite right in the head, but I don't think anybody in this movie was.
No. There was a lot of fucked up people in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's such an accurate movie, because,
Yeah, exactly.
pretty much all are.
Realism.
So, all right, well, I guess that's it. So,
you gonna tell us Megacon stories?
Oh, yeah, we did go to Megacon, didn't we? I forgot all about that. There's this whole convention thing going on last week that we went to. We did some interviews. We took a lot of pictures. There's a lot of stuff going on our website. You can check it out, bmcluster.net. We're putting together a video, hopefully soon, on just kind of the whole weekend. It was a very packed Megacon, probably the most busy Megacon I've ever personally seen. I went Friday and was able to get a lot of stuff done on Friday, but Saturday, man, I got a late start, and that was just the nail in the coffin, man. I mean,
Saturday
the rest of the day.
It was packed, but to me, it was still just meh. Like it's I go to Dragon Con. Megacon's just kind of whatever.
You didn't even go inside.
Exactly.
All you did
I wasn't going to pay $30 for that. I'm gonna pay $30 to look at vendors where I'm not gonna buy anything.
All right, Amina,
not go to panels.
Amina, you've never been to a con before.
Right.
Had you gone to the con and just seen the crowd and not be inside, what would you have thought?
I wouldn't have thought much about it. The inside was the best part, and the Star Trek part of it was the best part. So.
Well, yeah, and he wasn't going to go to that because he's a loser. But,
you didn't go to it
because I couldn't afford it.
Exactly, I couldn't either. If I didn't spend $30 on a ticket to look at vendors, I wasn't going to spend $50 to go to the Star Trek panel that I can just go to at Dragon Con.
Well, the cool part about wandering around the inside, though, was that at some point the Star Trek cast arrived and just started wandering around the booths, and nobody recognized them.
Yeah.
So you had Geordi the Forge and and Data, and they just showed up at booths, and some friends of mine took pictures of them, and nobody noticed. People were like telling them to get out of the way, and it's like, no, that's Brent Spiner.
Yeah.
You don't tell Data to move.
Yeah, next year I'll do things a little differently at Megacon. This is the first year I actually tried to commute. That was a bad idea.
I originally wasn't going to go. Amanda just happened to want to hang out with a friend there, so I only went because of that.
I think you missed out. I get that you couldn't afford to get in and all, but it was probably one of the best Megacons I've ever been to. The panels are not on the level that they are with Dragon Con. I'll give you that. Dragon Con's a whole nother beast. So Megacon's got a long way to go before they can meet up to that. But
there's also smaller cons that I've been to, smaller than Megacon, and their way they have their stuff set up, it's easier to navigate just the booths in general, and they also have more programming for panels.
Well, that's actually what I was...
Very lackluster.
Yeah, that's just what I was about to say, is they've outgrown their venue, but they haven't... They're not keeping up to pace with the type of crowd that wants to come to these things. Put the same con in Atlanta, and it would not have been as popular. Just because the venue's not big enough. for the first time ever, I had problems parking. You know, I parked a mile and a half away, and I parked illegally. You know, just to stop.
Which is surprising
around.
because I mean the convention center itself is super gigantic.
Yeah, so that's just to tell you how many people were there. You know, so I think they need to step up their game. I don't know about moving the con out of the convention center, but they definitely need to get with the surrounding community and bring them more into it and make it more of a location event than just the convention. You know, because like at Dragon Con, all the businesses are involved, all the restaurants are involved. You know, I mean, Dragon Con takes over downtown Atlanta for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it was worth it, and I'm looking forward to going through the rest of our stuff and putting those videos up. And if you guys see any of your pictures that we took, please tag yourselves. Let us know. I'm looking to possibly start a cosplayer of the week article. So anyone that's interested in that, I'd like to hear from you as well. What were you going to say, Mina?
The best part of Megacon for me was actually when it was all over, because my friends and I went on Travelocity, and they have this thing on there where you can pick, 4 or 5-star hotel, nameless, and get like a super good deal on it, but you don't know the name of it until you paid for it. So we got a 5-star hotel for like $70, and it was like a mile away from the convention. That was great and all, but I went to the convention dressed up as a chick from a zombie game from Left 4 Dead. So I was dirty and sweaty and covered in fake blood and all that. And so I go into this 5-star hotel, which has like crystal chandeliers and like a ballroom and an ornate bird cage and like 5 restaurants and gilded elevators. And I'm going to check in, and nobody says a thing. There's people, like, everyone there is dressed in suits, and there's like a row of black Escalades out front to take you wherever you want to go. And it's that kind of place. And I walk in, check in, nobody says a thing. I go upstairs, I order room service. They get there before I have time to clean up. So the room service guy comes in, and he's like, okay, can I bring this table in? Where should I put it? Is this good? I'll just leave it here. Is there anything else I can get for you? When it's over, just call me and I'll come get it. And he's like, what are you in town for? And I explained the convention, and I explained that a lot of people dress up for it, and there's zombies and things like that, and that's why I look like this. And he's like, oh, good, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, so I look abused and battered, but you weren't going to say anything. Thanks, man.
Yep. They're just like, that's cool. Y'all, that's y'all's business.
It's like, this is too rich a place. We're not going to get into your business.
Yeah, we value our guests' privacy.
Apparently.
All right, so on that note, we're going to go ahead and get our next film pick out of the way. And so we've got Dante.
Hey, everybody.
What do you got for us?
Let's see. I don't know. Oh, that was quick.
Alrighty.
B1?
B7.
Oh.
That should have been taken out. So I get to draw again?
Oh, we messed up.
What was it?
That's my fault.
Brandon, the Karate Kid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank God. We don't talk about that again.
Right. Try number 2.
Let's see.
I can't see that. Yeah, I don't know what that says.
Me neither. B15.
Yep.
Amina's going to be happy.
Yeah, my favoriteest movie ever.
Big Trouble in Little China?
Yes. Have you not seen this movie?
No.
Oh my God, Brandon.
Brandon hasn't seen it?
Seriously.
That's a classic.
Yeah. Everyone has seen this movie. My grandmother.
Oh, apparently not.
Literally, my grandmother has seen this movie.
I'm so excited about next week. You have no idea.
So we got to make sure we don't cancel.
No,
Yeah.
we're doing this.
Nobody gets sick.
I have
Nobody's
so
dog
much to
bites
say
anyone.
about this.
Well, yeah. You got sick once. I had the dog issue last week.
Yeah.
Which
so-
actually I have a picture of the other dog, by the way.
Oh yeah, weren't you supposed to write something and give us a whole like?
I'm
update
gonna
on,
make a little.
like a puppy
I'm gonna
watch?
make a little post. It's not gonna be a giant rant or anything. It's just gonna be like, here's what happened. Here's a picture of the dog. It's in recovery.
Yeah, your monstrous dog just picking on the little guy.
The dog was bigger than Thor.
Doesn't matter. It's not the size of the dog in the fight.
Wow.
Anyway.
All right, so next week, Trouble in Little China. Apparently, Amina's a little excited about that.
I am. Yeah, I'm tingly. It's good.
So, on behalf of Dante, Amina, Brandon, myself, the dog that got bit by Brandon's dog, that's a wrap. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Or if you want to follow along with our antics when we're not in front of the camera, you can check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Google+, or Twitter by searching for the M Cluster. Or you can leave comments in the field below. Or you can send us an email or give us a call. Heck, you can even write us a letter. Or you can buy us dinner. Or you can buy us a car. That would be awesome. Or you could send us on vacation. Or get us an Emmy. Ooh, a Tony. If you could get us a Tony, that would